Hello, this is Leonard Rich, Superintendent of the Laurel School District, with an introduction to a series of videos that are intended to provide information and background detail on the return to school plan for the Laurel School District. These are not easy times. These times are unprecedented. We are all trying to figure it out as best we can with the information that we have to receive. One of the things that I've been telling the pandemic team is, does anybody have experience working in a pandemic? I don't. So we take the best information that we can and we come up with the best decisions and conclusions that we can make. We will first review a letter that I put out. Why I do believe it's important to return to school 5 days a week as best we can. And if you will indulge me briefly, that it's understandable for some of us to have fears in regards to returning to school, but we can return to school safely with mitigation. We must also realize that it's impossible to eliminate 100% of the risk. That's why we have a continuum of learning pathways. You, the parent, know your child the best, and you, the parent, will make the best decision for your child. The American Academy of Pediatrics recommends children return to in-person classes. I would like to read you a brief statement that they released recently. The importance of in-person learning is well documented, and there's already evidence of the negative impacts on children because of those school closures in the spring of 2020. The group represents 67,000 pediatricians wrote, lengthy time away from school and association interruptions of support services often results in social isolation, making it difficult for schools to identify and address important learning deficits, as well as child and adolescent physical or sexual abuse, substance abuse, depression, and suicidal ideation. This in turn places children and adolescents at considerable risk of morbidity and in some cases mortality, the guidance continued. Beyond the educational impact and social impact of school closures, there has been substantial impact on food security and physical activity for children and their families. In sum, the consequences of the pandemic for young children and adolescents go far beyond the virus. Schools are safe zones for our children. Teachers have a love for their students as a parent loves a child. Teachers keep children safe, fed, and free from abusive situations. Laurel has a plan in place to reopen. Our plan fits our community. Different districts will have different plans that fit their communities. We have procedures in place should a student exhibit symptoms, and we will be passing along information to you to what to do to keep students home when they are sick. By way of comparison, in 2009, the H1N1 pandemic affected mostly children and young adults. There were over 60 million estimated H1N1 cases in the United States. Currently, we have about 500 positive tests of COVID in the United States. That counts retests, and that also counts probable positives. Schools were not closed in 2009. Something else to remember, we have never tested for or reported influenza or any other virus like we have for COVID. We also do not add influenza to death certificates like we have for COVID. COVID is real, and unfortunately, it's taken many lives, especially the lives of our elderly population. Studies have shown that children do not transmit COVID like adults do. They carry much smaller viral loads compared to adults. The Laurel School District is then responding by creating 3 different pathways, one of which you will choose. You received information about these pathways through our community survey. As a reminder, our first and best option is traditional instruction with responsible mitigation. This scenario will enable students to attend school in a brick and mortar format Monday through Friday. Online synchronous instruction. This synchronous learning refers to a learning event in which a group of students are engaging in learning at the same time, regardless of their location. So the teacher will be instructing a brick and mortar classroom. At the same time, there might be some kids in front of them, and there might be some students online as well, and they're responsible for instructing all of them at the same time. Our last option is a defined cyber instruction with an established program. This scenario will allow students to attend school in a completely virtual environment. The Laurel School District will provide students with the technology necessary to complete this type of learning and will utilize the Edgenuity program to guide instruction. All pathways are available at Laurel. If a family is struggling to decide the appropriate pathway, we encourage you to reach out to our administration. There's no need to register for traditional brick and mortar. There's no need to register for synchronous learning. Those platforms are interchangeable in as much as you are invited to come back brick and mortar. But if you do not come back brick and mortar, we are assuming that you are logging on synchronously. If you start out as a brick and mortar student and you become sick, you will then join the instruction synchronously. So traditional instruction and synchronous instruction are designed to operate left hand and right hand. If you are interested in the established cyber program, you do have to contact our administration and we will get you outfitted appropriately so you can participate in the Edgenuity program within the confines of your own home. With practical mitigation, we can all do our part and return safely. Not only to educate our students, but to protect them, to feed them, to love them. Not only protect them from COVID-19, but from all the ails in modern American society of abuse, mental illness, depression, anxiety, drug use, hunger, and suicide. Even our own little slice of heaven that we call Laurel is not immune from these ills that impact American society. We have a saying here at Laurel, come back with our shield or on it. And we intend to address education responsibly because our students deserve it. And we intend to address this pandemic responsibly because we need to. Again, my name is Leonard Rich, proud to be the superintendent of Laurel, and this is a first in a series of videos to address our return to school under the COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you for your attention.